How shall I be rid of her?
Spinach. Is Wolf Alice named after Angela Carter's Wolf Alice?
In between cherry blossoms and the ice in my matcha melting as I complete research for things that I love, reading and dancing have been also big pillars in these times. I went to Patti Smith's performance and rewatched a time where I loved Monster High Doll so much I sent fan mail to collectors. I read some amazing books, one of which is Angela Carter's The Bloody Chamber. In The Snow Child, the Countess in the story comes across a girl brought by pure happenstance midwinter. She asks, how shall I be rid of her? The Snow Child ends with the Countess saying, it bites. No matter how much I suppress Little Me's love for documenting time, she urges me to do so, for she bites. So here we are.
I'm 7 years old and I have 9 questions. A question. Okay, it's alright. A question. When are you guys going to make your collection update video? Anyway, I have a drawing for you guys to make. Oh, I made it. I hope you would like it.
First, we are going to light a candle. When I was 7, I loved Monster High Dolls. I had favorite YouTubers that talked specifically on Monster High Dolls and collected all of the versions and the pieces of different collections. I, of course, begged my mom to go to the post office to send them my fan mail. It wasn't until 5 years ago, I think, that I realized that the fan mail actually got to them. And my mom did, in fact, go to the post office. So, Patti Smith. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I'm actually going to show you my little box of paraphernalia and keepsakes from Patti Smith via this box from Repetto. So one of the keepsakes I got from Patti Smith, the only one I think other than the ticket, is this crumpled piece of paper. Patti Smith crumpled this paper herself as part of her performance, and they gave it out at the end. Correspondence by Patti Smith. I was in awe the whole performance. She was there with the Soundwalk Collective. At one point they brought a gigantic ice cube out and just started sculpting or picking at it, and it made the most beautiful sounds all throughout the venue. So I saw her up close and it was just like watching a living legend. It is truly, I think of her that way. Her performance was as though you were outside of time and you kind of just... She went to Hiroshima a couple days before that performance, and one of her pieces is titled Children of Chernobyl. I just have no words for it. It was so good. I've been back in ballet and it's been so heartwarming. After every single ballet class, I tear up inside to hear the teachers' feedback, critiques, kind of just being in class. It's so important to me and it's been so useful. I love ballet so much. I've been rewatching the Bournonville ballets from the Danish ballet, and of course I've been just rewatching Osipova. I've just been rewatching Daikanyama classes all over and over again. It's been very gratifying to work on my pull-up once more or stretch in order to get the good extensions and to do penchés. And it's only now that I feel a little stronger. Working on some research papers for university, and I can I talk about them? Is that allowed? Okay, let's just say this. I'm grateful I printed out my sources and I'm just looking over them right now, which I know I could have done this digitally as well, but nothing like analog that really just like puts it in front of you.
This is so cute.
My mom got me this blush and it's so insane. Like, I do that, right? I need to talk about this because I cannot use this blush. It's not my shade. It's not my blush. But I just think it's so funny because in what world You saw that it was just like a dot. Maybe I should do a reverse makeup tutorial of what I wouldn't do as I talk. You know what? I'm going to do a reverse makeup tutorial of what I wouldn't do. Yeah, let's just make my whole face red. As I blend this, I've been reading some of the books that I'm gonna be talking about today. Mostly are the books that I've enjoyed the most so far this year. And well, one of my favorite books ever is Women Who Run with the Wolves, and I have had Angela Carter, and now I finally read her. And then this was my face when I realized what The Bloody Chamber, that specific story, was about. That was my face. I absolutely love Angela Carter's writing. One of the first stories in Women Who Run with the Wolves is Bluebeard. I want to say this on record in quoting Maya Angelou. I believe that she was the one who actually said this about Women Who Run with the Wolves. I'll just go get it, actually. There is an interview, table talk, wherein Toni Morrison joins Clarissa pinkola estés somewhere in YouTube. It's somewhere on the internet, so I urge everyone to listen to it. But this is my copy of Women Who Run with the Wolves. If you look very closely, it is well loved, and as Maya Angelou said, everyone who can read should read this book. I, for one, would die on that hill, because I truly believe that. One of the first stories in this book is Bluebeard. And guess what The Bloody Chamber is about? The interpretation of it, though, the use of language. Of course the same story, but it's also different as well. But at the heart of it, it's beautiful. It's all written, both from Clarissa pinkola estés and from Angela Carter. I think one of my favorite sections from Women Who Run with the Wolves was The Red Shoes. I love The Red Shoes so much. The film, I mean. And I also love this story. And I know I'm not really saying much about what's on the stories themselves, but there is a method to that madness. Alright, here's my copy of The Bloody Chamber. I absolutely adore the writing. Along with The Bloody Chamber, I've also just been reading so much Clarice Lispector. So I would say that Clarice Lispector and Angela Carter are my favorite authors ever. They're detailed, yes, but they're also very magical in their prose. Angela Carter and both Clarice Lispector are so full of life and wit. I read Near to the Wild Heart, and I did a review on it, although that review was it was like me seconds after just like closing the book, so it was a very intense review. Okay, the most important piece of writing from this was, for me, not the movement creates for. I wrote it, first page, with a light whose evil they have yet to understand. Now, who hasn't felt that way? Most of my annotations are very thorough, but I like how this one just says OCD, because I highlighted little rituals. Joanna and her relationship with herself, so much of the little epiphanies, if you could call it that, but so much of your introspection. She had known perfumes. All I have to do is comply with myself, and then nothing will block my path until death. Near to the Wild Heart, I think, is her first novel. Title alone comes from James Joyce. The original quote from James Joyce goes, "He was alone, he was unheeded, happy, and near to the wild heart of life." Near to the Wild Heart, it was great writing. It was okay for me. I personally really loved An Apprenticeship or The Book of Pleasures by Clarissa Lispector more. I also read I Who Have Never Known Men. Who Have Never Known Men. For a very long time, the days went by, each just like the day before. Then I began to think, and everything changed. 39 women live in an underground bunker without knowing how they got there. They create structures that feel familiar to them, and what differentiates our protagonist is that she's the only one who doesn't remember anything about the other life. Her curiosity is often diminished as being pesky, and when asked, "Why do you want to know?" she fantastically says, "Because I want to know." For all its avant-gardeness, this book puts into words things I'll never. Everything I wish I could say, this book says. What it means to have really good soil, why there was so much value put in fine china. Though this book is meant to feel otherworldly, everything in this book feels very familiar. But if you've read Women Who Run with the Wolves, this is a perfect next read. What would a matriarchy look like? Would certain hierarchical structures still exist? I understood what Anthea called beauty, which apparently had been so abundant in their world. I Who Have Never Known Men is very realistic, I'd say, in its portrayal of wildness. It didn't make me feel as though I was reading something fictional at all. And I visited Jimbocho with my sister and my mom when they were here, when they visited last year. And it was a great experience to see all these good books. I got a copy of 100 Years of Solitude from there. It's just that they're really expensive there for some reason. So books are significantly cheaper on Mercari, but they also are should I get an example of a jimbocho? Talking a little bit more about 100 Years of Solitude in some other time, but this is an example, and I also got a copy of Sula. This is from Jimbocho, and as you can see, they wrap it in plastic like how you would in elementary school. I assume if you did not, then that reference didn't really match up to your memories, but they wrap it in plastic to preserve it, and it's also a great practice that I was reminded of. But the one from Mercari, as you can see, if I flutter through these pages anymore, it honestly looks like the grimoire. So they do have really good annotations there because most of them are from the readers themselves. Sometimes they underline, such as this. If you can see it. Oh my goodness. Well, I did say that if I flutter through this book anymore, it would do that. The writing, such as that, is The Moon and Sixpence. One of the most important books that I've read ever is Beloved, and I just love Toni Morrison, so I'm really glad that I got a copy of Sula. And then from Mercari, I think I found a copy of Jazz. And for the summer, one of the books I'm reading is Andrea Dorkin's Woman Hating. But I was reading Your Silence Will Not Protect You. And I cannot resell the books I've read because my highlights are, it's a compilation of many of Audre Lorde's works. So highly recommend to anyone who wants to begin with Audre Lorde. Winter is over, but I've always loved winter, so I've been trying to tinker with my daily matcha because I tried this salty maple matcha from a plant-based cafe. Also, a really weird combination that I've been trying lately as well is a miso matcha. It takes after a caramel taste, honestly, and it's really yummy. The past seasons and this stretch of my life has really benefited from Didion's essay on self-respect. I've always liked a good challenge. The past few months have been just that. So I saw someone grab a bunch of spinach. They had this whole buffet of spinach, so I'm making exactly that. Can't really see it, but here are the cherries. They look so plump as well. Most of all, my affinity for magical realism is not lost on me, ever, and it is definitely here to stay.